Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Tom Tugendhat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and it's a great privilege to be able to give the first Select Committee statement to this House, to this Parliament, in this Parliament. It's a huge pleasure because, of course, we are delegated from this House to investigate a particular area, in our case foreign affairs, and we are now reporting back to this House on our findings. It's worth noting that the Foreign Affairs Committee chose to publish its first report of this Parliament on the ethnic cleansing of the Rohingya population of northern Rakhine in Burma, having heard some of the most harrowing testimony from witnesses. The situation is one that has rightly drawn the attention of all sides of this House and has seen honourable members from the City of Durham, Newport West, Kettering, Bolton, South East, Ealing, Southall, Wolverhampton South West, Tooting, Colchester and Cardiff Central take a very personal interest in this issue. I pay particular tribute to those honourable members who have visited Cox's Bazar and other parts of the refugee community in Bangladesh to hear directly from the victims. The committee was able to be clear that the violence against the Rohingya is ethnic cleansing and may indeed also constitute crimes against humanity and even genocide because of the testimony that we received. We are pleased that the government's initial equivocation about the term has now been clarified and that the Minister has been very clear that the almost 650,000 who have crossed the border into Bangladesh since August were driven out by the Burmese authorities. The displacement of this great number is a compelling sign of a desperate population, and the traumatic experiences they have described are reminiscent of infamous atrocities elsewhere. In the face of such abuse, we must ask what the 2005 UN resolution we agreed on the responsibility to protect requires of us. The first must surely be that the UK government conducts its own legal analysis. Such analysis from a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, and indeed the pen holder on Burma, would help shape international understanding of the issue and structure a global response. Today this is needed more than ever. Research by Médecins Sans Frontières found that at least 9,000 Rohingya died in Myanmar, or Burma, between the 25th of August and the 24th of September. The charity states that in the most conservative estimations, at least 6,700 of those deaths have been caused by violence, including at least 730 children under the age of 5. This suggests the operation conducted by the Burmese military was brutal enough to raise the possibility of taking a case to the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. Along with such brutality, we heard reports of sexual violence being used, and we welcome the mission of Special Representative of the Secretary-General, Patton, who is expected to be in Naypyidaw and in Yangon this week. We should welcome, too, the actions taken by the United Nations Human Rights Council in holding a special session to hear about the degradation and the treatment of minorities in Burma and the words of Zaid Ra'ad al-Hussein that we could be witnessing a genocide. These build on the achievements of our own representatives in the UN to secure a very strong presidential statement last month. Burma's response to this growing body of evidence, or indeed evidence of bodies, has been exceptionally poor. Setting up another commission when previous recommendations have been ignored is not good enough. The Annan Commission was clear, and we call for its recommendations to be implemented in full. That is why the committee calls on the UK to consider sanctions on individuals connected with the military regime, and particularly on the Commander-in-Chief, General Min Aung Hlaing. Although sanctions are an imperfect tool, it is wrong for the UK to continue engagement with Burma with no demonstration of censure, and his responsibility in particular cannot be ignored. The UK, of course, bears some responsibility for seeking to turn international outrage into tangible action, and improvements on the ground should not be hamstrung by China's veto in the Security Council, and should focus on regional forums and allies to achieve results. In seeking regional cooperation, the committee recognised, supported and welcomed the efforts of my right honourable friend the Minister, who I am glad to see in his place on the Treasury bench. The committee noted with sadness the echoing silence of State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi. Although she is clearly constrained by a lack of control over the military and by strong domestic public opinion, to see a voice for freedom, for democracy and for the rule of law choose not to speak out in the face of such crimes does more than allow them to continue. It suggests acquiescence at some level and a failure of leadership at every level. She remains a better option than the alternatives, perhaps, and perhaps the only option for the future, but she is now deeply compromised. Finally, Bangladesh deserves praise and material support for accommodating well over 500,000 new refugees this year. And the British government also deserves credit for its quick and generous provision of aid. While return must be the ambition, we noted that this can only happen when humanitarian access is possible to Rakhine State. And we are also concerned that the camps in Bangladesh should not become permanent, leaving people exposed to radicalisation and storing up problems for the future. As the committee noted, this crisis was sadly predictable, and indeed the Foreign Office did predict it. But the Foreign Office's own warning system did not raise enough alarm. There was too much focus by the United Kingdom and others in recent years on supporting the democratic transition, and not enough on atrocity prevention, indeed as was set out by former Foreign Secretary Lord Haig during his term of office. And delivering a tough and unwelcome message to the Burmese government about the Rohingya was not made early enough, though I welcome that the Minister who is in his place did indeed make those messages recently. The United Kingdom, our Minister who is in his place was commendably candid about the Foreign Office's need to reflect, and the Foreign Office must now learn lessons on atrocity prevention from the crisis to apply not only in Burma but elsewhere.